Bismillah. Let's proceed, inshallah. A recap on something that's most important, especially when taking this class. Um, we're going back to understand that the reason why Islam has come, and the main reason is to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is true belief. To not know Allah, the creator of the seven heavens and the seven earths, is disbelief. And in order for us to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, we have to, we don't think it up, we don't make it up as we go along. We don't try to have our own philosophies of things. There is a directive. We get our source and our understanding from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about himself and what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet that brought him to the dunya and introduced him to mankind through the message. And this is how we get to know the creator. And with that being said, people might think, okay, so how do we navigate with something like this? So it's very simple. We look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about himself in the Quran, and then we look at what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about the creator that he introduced mankind to. And when we go to these sources, there's over enough information there to understand and grasp the concept and grasp who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really is. And this is very important because I sat in one Jummah, and I'm not going to mention the mosque name, and I came across the khutbah, and the man that was at the masajid, the so-called imam, he was giving the khutbah about shaitan having a son. And because shaitan had a son, Adam alayhi salam fought the son of shaitan and killed shaitan's son. And then he ate shaitan's son, and now that's why we as mankind, we have something called nafs. We have the evil within ourselves, and these are things you cannot do in Islam. Again, Islam is authentically sent, proven by now, not by any Muslim, authentically proven by many historians, authentically proven by scientists, authentically proven. So we don't need to prove anything right now. If you want to go get all of those proofs, you can do your own research on that. The miraculous scientific evidences from the Quran, or what the Quran discovered that science are discovering, you can go do all of that on your own. This is not a class for that. But this class is to get to understand and know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better, grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and come nearer in our understanding and have a proper understanding, because Islam got nothing to do with feeling. You know, I feel the Holy Spirit right now, and that's why I'm close now. Islam is based on knowledge, and not any type of knowledge, authentic knowledge. So inshallah, hopefully we will understand, we'll get to understand this through this class now, inshallah. So first and foremost, when we speak about Allah and his attributes or anything of the sort, it always authentic. It has an authentic chain. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah had to say it, or the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to mention it. And this is where we get our deen from. We don't make it up as we go, as I said, because now we're going to have fantastical stories that got no basis and got no standing, and we are going to just make it up as we go along, and that's why we become misled. That's what the Quran has come as a guide for mankind. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam wrote that guide himself, and he showed us how to carry it out. So inshallah, hopefully today we have an introduction to who is Allah. So when I ask the question, who is Allah, as I said before, we have to see what Allah said about himself, and we have to see what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the messenger, what he said about the Allah that he brought to mankind. So first and foremost, when it comes to Allah, as I said, we say what Allah said, and we deny what Allah denied, because There are religions today that believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he sleeps or rests on a Sunday. That is, he's restful day, billah. Imagine that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not like his creation, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned. There is nothing like him in his creation at all. And that's why we cannot liken Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to anything. So first and foremost, we are going to begin with the introduction to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's take a journey so that we have an understanding of the scope that we are dealing with. We have an understanding of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been teaching us through His Quran and through the Sunnah, inshallah. So first and foremost, I'm sure everybody has been to the beach. Everyone here has been to the beach and they know what the beach looks like, hopefully, inshallah. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a journey. We're going to go to the beach and we are going to see if we can go on a journey to discover who is Allah. So the first thing is, when you're looking at that water, the scope of water in the beach, how much liters do you see? When you're watching the sea, how much liters can you see of water?
Nothing I can equate by liters. Is too much.
Too much?
Too much.
Okay. Now the main question here is, who is Allah? And as we question, we will get to understand the gravity, and we'll get to understand the immensity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Majesty, inshallah, something close to what we can understand, inshallah. So when we're looking at the ocean and we're seeing those thousands of tons of liters of water, as far as the eye can see, that's only what the eye can see. The rest of the sea has more water. So what we're going to do, as I said, we're going to on a journey so that we can see if we can understand it. So let's go from the sea, let's go into the ocean. So as you're going into the ocean, you will find there is different types of creatures in the ocean. One of the creatures in the ocean, we find penguins. They're extremely fast in the ocean, these birds, penguins. They're extremely fast within the ocean, catch any fish. They bullet across, but on land, they're quite flimsy. So the question remains, who is Allah? So as we go deeper into the ocean, we find different creatures. The second different creature that we find is we find something called the blue whale. And the blue whale comes in at about 130 tons. Massive creature. And the whole ocean is not small enough. It's vast. How many blue whales in the sea? How many blue whales in the sea?
A whole lot. Because they're not extinct.
A whole lot.
Yes, so
They are
there's
not
families
extinct.
of them. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I had cousins that's on the ships, there's massive ships, cargo ships, and they say that when there's blue whales, they do tend not to get in the way of these blue whales because it leaves immense damages to the cargo or the ships. So that is magnificent. They eat tons a day. The first question is, who feeds them? Do we feed them?
No, Allah feeds them.
Oh, Allah feeds them, subhanallah. So as we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feeds him, and Brother Asim, we just had a conversation before this about the natural fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left for our society, our world that we're living in, especially the ecosystem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how to balance it. Let's go deep into the ocean. So as we're going deep into the ocean, we find that at the bottom of the ocean, we find a different type of creature. Not the same creature that we found on the top. These creatures, you find they are more fluorescent. You can see through them. You can see the little hearts beating. You can see the little retinas. You can see the little lungs pumping. And whatever they eat, you can actually see them consuming it. So the question is, who is Allah? So if we go out of this whole ocean and we take one drop of the whole ocean and we put it under a microscope, what do we find in that one drop of the whole ocean? What do we find?
An ecosystem. There'll be microorganisms and things feeding the microorganisms and everything. Life is happening in that one drop, subhanallah.
Subhanallah. So there's life in the water as well, in a single drop. So the question is, who is Allah? Scientists have said that 1 square meter of water, seawater, there's more life in 1 square meter of seawater than there is life in the whole entire world. Imagine that. There's more life in 1 square meter of water from the ocean than the whole entire world put together. Subhanallah. Imagine that. So the question remains, who is Allah? What's the question?
Who is Allah?
Who is Allah? So let's move away from the dunya. And when we move away from the dunya, we cannot see any creatures no more. We see this big ball of blue and green matter. Does anybody know how fast the world is spinning? Does anybody know how fast we are spinning right now?
Oh, I really don't know, but I know it's a lot. Subhanallah.
12,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, Rob.
We are spinning so fast that we are stuck to the world. This is where gravity comes in.
Allahu
Subhanallah.
Akbar. I'm thinking of
If we
swinging
s-
something in your hand and the thing stays there at the end of the thing. Why? Because it's spinning so fast. Subhanallah.
Right. So scientists said that if we were spun a couple of more miles harder or a couple of more miles faster, we would actually be crushed. Also, if we were turned down, the dial was turned down and we became slower, then we would float. So it is perfectly, immaculately created as it is mathematically. So the question is, who is Allah? Einstein was a genius of our time. Einstein, he was famous for something. Does anybody know what Einstein was famous for? Einstein was a genius of our time. He was famous for something. Anybody know what he was famous for?
Atomic bomb.
Yeah, that's the most famous one. But actually, Einstein was famous for calculating the speed of light. That's what Einstein was famous for. So Einstein calculated the speed of light. So what Einstein said, that the speed of light for the layman, so majority, there's different calculations that giving, the ones that I studied at the time when I studied Einstein's theory, it was 133,333 and 3,670. Today you'll find 200,000 and whatever the case is, the different various numbers. But for the sake of understanding it, Einstein said that we have a light gun, a gun that shoots a ball of light. So your mission is shoot the ball of light and get out of the way in time. So as soon as you shoot the ball, bang, you step out of the way. How fast is that? Split second?
Don't need to be faster than the second? Because the thing went
that's
off already.
fast.
Nah.
Yes, as soon as you shoot, you jump out of the way, right? So Einstein says that light travels so fast, that ball will travel the distance around the world, pass through you 7.5 times before your brain tells your feet to jump. That's how fast light is, right? And there's a reason that we are calculating this so that we can understand, because as we said scientifically, we are base everything on factual evidence. You understand? So that means when somebody says, you see that star over there, that star is 100 light years away or 400 light years, that means you have to travel in that speed for 400 years until you get to that star. That's what light years mean. Does everybody understand that?
Naam. It's crazy,
Okay.
but yes.
Right. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself, he went on a journey known as the Miraj. And there's a lot of people that don't believe this, but it doesn't matter. You will find the evidence that this really occurred. So first and foremost, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he asked the companions, would you know how the first heaven looks? Would you like to know how the first heaven looks? All of them said, yes, we would like to know how the first heaven looks. So he took a ring and he had the ring in his hand and he says, this is our galaxy. What did he say? This ring is our galaxy. So if you want to calculate our galaxy, scientists calculated that our galaxy alone, from the beginning of our galaxy to the end, will take us 100 billion light years, which means you have to travel in the speed of light for 100 billion years from the beginning of our galaxy to the end of our galaxy. That's what.
Universe.
Yes, that is our galaxy. You understand? That's our galaxy. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, when I came to the first heaven, this is what I saw. He took his ring, he says, this is our galaxy that we are living in. And he pointed to the desert and he asked them, how big is the desert? And all of them said, the desert is vast. You know, this is a massive place, massive plains for hours and days and months you can travel, because they travel on horse or they travel on camel or by foot. So he took the ring. He says, this is our galaxy. He says, to comparison to the first heaven, when you want to compare our galaxy to the first heaven, he took his ring and he threw it into the desert. He says, the first heaven is the size of the desert, and our galaxy becomes the size of the ring in comparison. And the companions were amazed, like, wow, is that possible? He says, no, but don't worry. When you come to the second heaven, the first heaven becomes the size of the ring, and the second heaven becomes the size of the desert as it expands. He says, when you come to the third, the same thing happens. When you come to the fourth, the same thing happens. When you come to the fifth, the same thing happens. Where do you think we are? Can you find our galaxy? Can you find us anywhere in comparison?
Not even in iota.
Not even in an iota. So let's see the evidence to these things. You said, not my words, your words, not even an iota. So let's see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, he introduces himself. He says, Allahu la ilaha illa wal hayyul qayyum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces himself in Ayatul Kursi. And when we are done with the class, please revisit Ayatul Kursi. Please go see the tafsir of Ayatul Kursi so that you can understand the introduction of a God to mankind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is introducing himself. So Allah says, Allah, there is no God worthy of worship except him. Allah, the ever-living, the sustainer, the ever-existing, the exalted. You understand? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, neither drowsiness, slumber, nor sleep seizes me. Imagine that. We just spoke about the religion that thinks that Allah sleeps on a Sunday. Allah makes it very clear that no slumber, no sleep seizes him. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes and he says, to him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. Everything belongs to him because he is the owner of them. He's a sustainer and he is the creator of it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes further on and he says, Who is it that can intercede with a God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without his permission? Who is it that can intercede with Allah? So he's showing his might, his majesty, and his magnificence. And this is perfectly in accord. Do you understand? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes further and he says he knows whatever is in the future, in the past, behind them, what is in their hands, what they will own, what they will never get, what they will never grasp. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this. All of this knowledge encompasses Allah, and there's nothing that he does not know. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they cannot comprehend anything of Allah's knowledge unless Allah allows them to understand. And that is Allah's will as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسِيَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you come to the seventh heaven, Allah says, وَسِيَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. There's a little chair where my foot is resting on, kursi chair. And this chair, it covers the seven heavens that we just described right now, until the world, until the earth. Hence why you find Muslims bowing down, saying Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater than every single thing, and this is why we bow down to no man. Is there anything in comparison? Is there a malaikat? Is there an angel that has the same rank of Allah? Is there a prophet that has the same rank of Allah? Is there a human being that can have the same rank of Allah? Please answer me. Who has and who shares a majesty with the creator of that magnitude?
No one can. Subhanallah.
Nobody can. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Qul huwallahu ahad. The one and the only. Subhanallah. And as you said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that verily, mankind is so minute. Verily, the magnitude and the magnificence of the seven heavens is far surpassing his intellect. But in mankind's mind, he is supreme. And that's the only place that his supremacy is. He's the smaller, one of the smallest things he created. Imagine that. Subhanak ya Rabbi. And this is what we need to understand, and this is how we need to understand, because all of these things are there and has been spoken to us as guidance. And this is how you need to see, because we say what Allah said, and we say what the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam brought as evidence. And if you want even more evidence, you can go see the galaxies and what scientists found out. Imagine, in the 21st century, we're still trying to figure out how big is the galaxy, how much light years apart is the galaxy. And this happened 1400 years ago to an Arab in the middle of the desert. And this is the miraculous nature of Islam. So if you want all of your evidences, you can go do your research on your own and find all the evidences that we spoke about. How the galaxies expands beyond the first galaxy and it just grows and grows and grows. SubhanAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Ahad. Allahu Samad. Again, this is only an introduction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding to the Creator that we are supposed to be serving, worshipping, and being slaves of. Ameen. Is there any questions on anything that we covered so far, inshallah? Anybody have questions?
None from outside. Jazakallah khair.
Brother Asim, have you got any questions?
No, I'm good, shukr.
Brother Riyaz?
No, akhi, I'm all good for now.
Okay, inshallah. Barakallahu feek. So this was the introduction. Hopefully, inshallah, you have a bit of understanding of the Creator, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He is. As we go along, we're going to understand. We're going to understand His majesty, His power, His magnificence, inshallah. Anyone else got any
No,
questions?
alhamdulillah, we are sufficed. It seems you're just blowing our mind tonight, Akhi. So we must just keep in mind who our Rabb is.
Again, this is why we go to the Quran and this is why we go to the Sunnah, because it's mind-blowing on its own. This is why we have knowledge-based Islam, because it's more than sufficient. Whatever I could conjure up, I'm not even near to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really is. This is just a covering of our own understanding, so that we can have an understanding, or just a yardstick of what we need to look at, inshallah, going forward in worshipping, in understanding, following the laws, knowing our place as insan, the minute little creatures that He created, and not becoming gods ourselves, as we spoke about shirk and how we worship our own egos, because that's the only thing. That's the only thing that makes us magnificent, is in our own minds. Because even that is mind-blowing, subhanAllah. As a neuroscientist, subhanAllah, that's beyond people's comprehension. Inshallah, we are going to close off the class now, sensing nobody has any questions. Barakallahu feek.
Wa feek barakallah, Akhi. Jazakallahu khairan.
Amen. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
Alaikum
rahmatullah.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.